sense. I always tell anybody who asks me that's an athlete looking to invest in anything, always ask for a seat at the table because realistically, your input's going to be way different than the founders, than the other
Sure.
investors, than the XYZs, and you're going to be able to better implicate your own investment.
All right, we're live, Tom. Thanks for joining us today, and this is another episode of the Constant Sports podcast. And today we're going to be diving into the Players Company. So thanks for joining us today, Tom.
Thanks for having me, Connor. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're looking forward to talking about kind of the vision, where you guys have been, where you're going. You know, what is the Players Company, and all things sports tech, investments, things along that nature. So buckle up, and it's going to be a good ride here today, Tom. So I guess let's just start out. Kind of the vision behind the Players Company. How did it start? What does it represent? Kind of give us the background.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually started this in the 49ers locker room. The initial concept was to help the bottom 80% of the NFL locker room build a pathway to generational wealth just because, especially at the time, like it's gotten significantly better now, right? With kind of the player guarantees as well as better kind of like methodology for athletes. But especially during the time, there was a large alarming statistic that NFL players, close to 80% of which,
Yeah,
2.5 years after retirement, would go bankrupt, right? Knowing what I know about the NFL with kind of contractual situations, unfortunately, a lot of players did fall to that. Not everybody is a Richard Sherman or a Patrick Mahomes, right? You can't hire a full team to build out a family office to help you build a pathway. So that's why we founded the Players Company as kind of a safe space and a toolbox to help athletes improve their financial identity and build a way there.
gotcha. And is that I would assume as you guys were building out this mission and core statement, the kind of financial identity is kind of your guys' heartbeat, your kind of north star.
Yep, 100%.
I see. And then as you said, it kind of started in the locker room with the 49ers. How has it expanded? I guess as far as clients, investors, kind of the whole process of building it out. I guess investors and obviously who's involved with the Players Company.
Yeah, absolutely. I will be the first one to say we are very fortunate because a lot of it has happened organically. And I think we can attest just good locker room presence and branding to it, right? Like we started in the Niners locker room, but today we've blossomed and kind of like got around to all five major leagues. But most of our core concentration is, of course, NFL. I think a lot of it is when you're in the locker room, word spreads pretty quick, right? So when there's something interesting, especially when guys leave a locker room and go to another one and it isn't existing there, that helps you substantially in terms of just getting more people on your side.
Gotcha. So is that one of the, I guess, methodologies to expand the business is just word of mouth?
Yep, 100%. To date, we've been fully a word of mouth business.
Oh wow, awesome. That's I feel like it's pretty rare as just like the internet with everything going on, right? Like just word of mouth and kind of old school.
100%. Admittedly, I am not a social media expert, neither are my co-founders. So word of mouth is what we got.
I love it. I love it. As far as like you're saying, the word of mouth and different, I guess, opportunities and investment kind of philosophies, talk us through kind of how you and the team evaluate opportunities, whether it's in real estate, sports, startups, tech, etc.
Yep, absolutely. So it all begins with, of course, figuring out what our members and our demographic base want, right? And just to clarify on a later point, we're not just a collective of athletes now. We have accredited investors, qualified purchasers, a couple of offices, as well as a lot of entrepreneurs. So it's understanding what actually fits what everybody wants. So we do a lot of just, I mean, it sounds lame, but questionnaires to get kind of like demographic response on, hey, do you want a real estate opportunity? Do you want a venture opportunity, a private equity opportunity? We do this just to see the demand, but when we actually do diligence a deal or an opportunity, we have a very kind of like tried method with it that's merited some decent success. So we always look for a tier one lead investor or an anchor investor, if you will, on a deal, and that's what a lot of our diligence as well as our questions are predicated on is why are they investing? What's their validity in terms of industry expertise? What have they done? And also, almost as importantly, what are their plans to helping the business grow? Right? Are they going to be silent? Are they going to be active? Are they going to bring it into their respective flywheels? Once we feel pretty comfortable with that, we look at the business as a whole in just kind of like more P&L side, right? We do anywhere from seed stage to Series B. They need to have a minimum ARR, of course. What I think makes us unique is these two little factors is we look at the founding team especially, just because Connor, as you know, like athletes are and entertainers as a whole is an interesting demographic, right? You really
Yeah.
don't want to bring any bad eggs in. So we heavily vet the founding team, as well as we always ask, how do we make this business better? Like, is there
Yep.
anything we can do to support it that, I mean, transparently protects our downside?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Smart play. And then I guess going into the kind of intersection of sports and investing, and I feel like there's a lot of buzzwords, in the industry nowadays. And so, what is, I guess kind of on the spot, but what is do you think is kind of an overvalued and or undervalued asset class right now? Whether it's I feel like women's sports is being talked about a lot. Obviously NFL pro teams is in there. So what do you think about kind of the most undervalued and or overvalued? You can take it either way.
All right, I love that question. And I love that you mentioned sports teams because that actually segues into my other business, which is
Uh-huh.
kind of like aggregating sports as an asset class.
Hmm.
I would say teams as a whole, you can make an argument for both sides, right? The valuations are skyrocketing, especially as of late with the Lakers deal going for 10. I think the Celtics went for what, 6-6 or something,
Yeah,
6-1?
something crazy.
Yeah, something like that, which kind of blows the previous numbers out of the water. But when you look at the track record and the trajectory of sports, they've been an appreciating asset for the last 25 years with only one down year, right? In the 90s, which is substantially safer than what you can even say about index stocks.
Yeah.
Um, and in terms of sheer multiplier, like you mentioned, women's sports, it's interesting because I think if you asked me that 9 months ago or a year ago, I would say absolutely undervalued. An NWSL team for 70 million? Oh, absolutely. But right now, like the recent Denver bid was
Hmm.
130 or
Yep.
something like that, or
Yep. Some in that
140.
ballpark.
So I think it's catching up and it's approaching kind of like that little influx point of,
Hmm.
hey, where is this going to go in 5 years in terms of building equity value?
Yep. Agreed. I did want to talk about, I guess, an emerging league, emerging market, which is name, image, and likeness, and we're seeing a lot of agencies pop up in groups. And I know you guys collabed, maybe not collabed, I guess more professional ways, work together with the Jordan Sports Group. So talk to us about kind of where you see NIL going, why that move strategically, and kind of the industry in a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? It's a huge market and it's only going to grow multiples over
Hmm.
the next 10 years. It makes sense because, I mean, realistically, if you look at college sports, right, like a alumni base,
Yeah.
arguably may have more of a following than an NFL team,
Uh-huh.
right? Or at least more diehard,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So it makes sense that now they're figuring out kind of ancillary revenue streams, player contracts. We traditionally wanted to stay away from it, I'll be honest with you, like during the initial emergence of it, just because we've stayed pretty much in the pro market for
Hmm.
the entire duration of the company. But as you saw, it kind of bloomed up, and now kids are getting a lot larger deals at a lot younger of an age, which kind of brings it into another question, right? Who's looking out for the kids? I mean,
Right.
granted, their support systems are better now, arguably, than 15, 20 years ago, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of gray area that
Hmm.
athletes face. So that's a big reason why we wanted to work with JSG was build a cornerstone in the market with people we trust that can build us a pathway to essentially help these younger kids, especially the NFL ones that may be going through a draft process or picking out like a financial advisor or whatever, right? We're just matching them with people that have done it before.
No question. When it kind of goes back, obviously, into your company's North Star, which is kind of the financial literacy and bringing these educational kind of platforms to athletes at a younger age, especially when they're essentially transitioning into investors a lot earlier, opposed to being in a 49ers locker room, right? They're doing it while they're in a college locker room, some of them, right? Where we saw, I think it was the USC, I think Juju Watkins, I think she
Yeah.
got a
Hmm.
minority stake in a WSL team or something along
Hmm.
those lines. So as you're saying, right, it's younger and younger, and these kind of pillars and educational, plans or access points are only going to be more beneficial for the college athletes. And I did want to speak that a little bit as far as we see, I guess recently we've seen kind of a bigger wave into athlete-led, whether investment groups or athletes, coming out and investing more. And so as far as kind of like a diversification idea or thought, what's your thought on like, should all athletes be doing this? Should only a certain point? Should you have X amount of money? Kind of, what's your thought on athletes being investors and getting into that, opposed to maybe just putting their money in the market or buying a duplex or something?
All right, I will have to say before I disclaim anything, I am not a licensed financial advisor, so this is not financial advice for
Yep.
anybody. But what I would say, the first thing I would always say to that is make sure you have a good, steady passive income stream,
Hmm.
right? Because with athletic careers, unfortunately, being kind of like on the sports medical and sports science side, uh, careers can end literally like in a snap,
Oh yeah.
right? Like an ACL or an Achilles. I
Hmm.
mean, we've seen a plethora of those in this NFL season concurrently.
Hmm.
Like it can drastically impact kind of like the future earnings scale. So
Yep.
please do not make kind of like long-term hold investments unless you figured out the passive income stream
Hmm.
because athletic careers, unlike corporate careers, do not last 25 years. But with
Yeah.
that being said, I think athletes are a very, very interesting platform, more so than kind of like any potential investor, just because they have the media value, they
Hmm.
have the networking capabilities. So, as an athlete, if you are going into the alternative space, and I do say once you do have the passive income figured out,
Sure.
please do go in there. They're able to make a lot more of a difference and also negotiate significantly better deal terms that hedge their upside. So
Sure.
I would say it's something most athletes should get into as long as they are in a solid enough place.
Hmm. Yeah, no, well said. And as you said, not being a financial advisor and those things, I was just curious because I feel like we've seen a big push of athletes,
Hmm.
maybe dumping the money is the wrong word, but just really like going hook, line, and sinker into investing in companies or chip companies, and I feel like it's a new-ish type of wave that we haven't really seen at scale like we have right now. So I was just curious, kind of where, obviously we don't want that to, go the other way. But as far as you saying with athletes, being, would you say they're better ambassadors than celebrities? Or I would be curious your thoughts on that, as we've seen celebrities now too try to get into, like Ryan Reynolds and Wrexham, and people like this trying to get into sports as well.
I would say it depends on what the asset is, right?
Hmm.
Like everybody has a different kind of like public perception, if you will. But
Hmm.
if you're going for something like a CPG brand that's like Zen Water, for
Yeah.
example, of course Travis is going to make a great ambassador for that, right? Over like Ben Affleck or something,
Yeah.
right? But with that being said, I think it's a unique situation. As you mentioned, everybody's kind of dumping money in. I guess not dumping, but
Hmm.
putting money into a lot of varied assets is because everybody's realizing they can be impactful, right?
Hmm.
So that at least gives you some semblance of control in the trajectory of a
Right.
business. I always tell anybody who asks me that's an athlete looking to invest in anything, always ask for a seat at the table
Hmm.
because realistically, your input's going to be way different than the founders, than the other
Sure.
investors, than the XYZs, and you're going to be able to better implicate your own investment.
Hmm. Well said. Yeah, great point there. And we've talked a little bit about kind of, I guess, just North America or stateside, but I would be curious on your thoughts about globally, where you think the sports asset class is growing, some hot markets, some maybe not hot markets, and then obviously we'll touch on a little bit the Players Fund. Obviously, you guys are working with them too. So, yeah, where do you kind of see it globally as far as the sports investment sector?
I think the rest of the world is slowly catching up, particularly to kind of like the sports market in the US.
Hmm.
You've seen a lot of big dollar moves over the
Hmm.
last 5 years with kind of like the Middle East as a whole, European teams' values kind of shooting up,
Hmm.
right? Um, I think Europe is definitely understanding that it's a large, sustainable asset class, and everything's kind of like hedging their bets, not quite as an emerging market, but as a growing market.
Hmm.
That's also why we wanted to partner and work with Rory and Fergus at the Players Fund because we understand that European athletes are going through the same thing as American athletes, right?
Right.
Maybe in a different iteration, but realistically, at its core, it's the same exact thing,
Yeah.
right? And that partnership gives us a unique perspective of kind of like a global athlete as opposed to just the domestic market. But that is where we plan on expanding tremendously. Is first in Europe. We have a couple of inner workings with Australia and Asia as well.
Hmm.
So in the next probably 5 years, we're going to be moving kind of across the seas a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was curious, and I would be interested to hear your thoughts maybe on some of the emerging sports like pickleball, paddle, I guess cricket even. Um, I guess pickleball is pretty big in the states, but as far as those kind of international sports making their way to the states, do you see that I guess forthcoming, or do you think those will kind of stay? Basically, do you think NFL and NBA and MLB is going to stay king in the states?
I'll be honest. I don't think anybody's going to take NFL
Yeah.
out of the top spot. NBA is a very solid 1B to a 1A, right?
Uh-huh.
But as that being said, like you kind of see the same thing that happened with soccer,
Hmm.
right? Happening with all of these non-American, kind of larger European-based sports. I think in the next 15 years, there's going to be a huge bump, particularly in the value of those franchises. And right now, you see, I mean, even pickleball, there's like
Yeah.
multiple leagues. You're going to see that consolidation, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
happening to form kind of more a legitimate league or franchising model. And it will grow with a large market cap. But with that being said, I cannot play anything with a racket. Like I'm just terrible. So I can't speak too much on the interest, right?
Yeah. Same. That's and one thing I did want to kind of circle back to is one of your, I guess the players company, obviously with the things you're building out, the education and the investment platform, but one of the other things is kind of the media and event side, especially the media. I know a few of you guys are on TV shows and things like that, but speak to the media and the event side also being a pillar in the players company.
Absolutely. That's one of our most unique and kind of largest products for our
Hmm.
members is because realistically, at our base when we started, it was about matching athletes with the right people, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's successful entrepreneurs, successful fund managers, anybody that's had tremendous success in their field of expertise, and that's what we try to do with all of our events is carry on that matchmaking, but more on a grander scale and make it organic, right? But with that being said, it is also something that we plan on scaling of 2026 as we get more partners, new markets, and different types of activations. Right to date, we've really done a kind of like more of a panel slash networking base.
Hmm.
Um, we have a lot of great NGO partners, and I'd love to incorporate something more community focused that I think is important, especially to a lot of athletes that may not come from your particularly affluent
Hmm.
communities.
Hmm.
So that's a large staple of our business.
I love it. And as far as the, I guess the team or the athletes, the players themselves, when you look to your guys' roster, a lot of them are on TV. So is that one of the things that I guess you recommend for the athletes is also being active in I guess media or behind a camera?
It would depend on the athlete, right? Because not
Yeah.
everybody wants to be on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's, again, select personalities.
Uh-huh.
But what I've learned is, and I've seen this firsthand, I've heard the testimonials. I mean, I haven't gone through because I didn't play professional football. But once your career kind of winds down,
Hmm.
unfortunately, so does your platform and a lot of your
Hmm.
accessibility and reach. So for an athlete that's looking to build a business, kind of like be an athletepreneur,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Being in the media consecutively and consistently is very important for that because that keeps you in the spotlight, that enhances whatever you're doing, and you're better able to kind of use your platform as a resource.
Yep, I love it. Yeah, I think, and especially in today's current market with, podcasts, shows, Thursday Night Football from Mr. Sherman, obviously, and things like that. It's just another way to kind of continue to promote, yourself, obviously, into the markets, right? Which is, I guess, in a sense, free advertising. If it's going well, or if it's going not, any publicity is good publicity, as they say. And then to kind of wrap things up here, Tom, I got a few just kind of quick rapid fire questions that might make you think. So we'll give you a second or two to think about it. But
All right.
as over your time with the Players Company and whatnot, what's kind of been, one investment maybe you wish you had got you might be in that you wish you had gotten in earlier, or one that you might have, I guess, missed the boat on.
Ooh, that's a great question. All right, so earlier there's a bunch, but if I was gonna pick one that I think I should have invested in, both personally and maybe as a collective, is Unrivaled, the new emerging
Mm.
league, just because
Hmm.
I was approached very early. I really liked the founding team, and we kind of liked their messaging as well in terms of giving players equity. But unfortunately, timing didn't match up, and I'll be transparent, terms would have been substantially better than what they just.
No, yeah, no question. And then as far as maybe an athlete, entrepreneur, if you could pick one, who kind of inspires you the most, or who you kind of, you know, read about and learn about the most?
I'd have to say my co-founder, Sheldon.
Hmm.
Sheldon Day, he plays defensive tackle for the Commanders. Having been in a locker room like for a number of years and kind of going through it, the schedule players go through, like the fact that he's still as involved as he is, like we talk almost daily, like if not like every 2 days on
Hmm.
business strategy and company direction and all those different things. It's just amazing to see that even though you're 100% in on football, you're still in on the business, which
Yep.
creates kind of like a, it's tough. It's
Yeah.
admirable.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No question about it. Right. He, taking that to the next level. That's awesome to see. And we've talked about a little bit about kind of investment you made earlier, but what's maybe the best investment, or the most investment you're the most proud of to date?
I would say investing in my own businesses at the end of
Mm.
the day. When I left the NFL, like I came and I mean, my first time being an entrepreneur was starting a health and wellness business, right? I mean,
Hmm.
because just given background, but I think betting on myself and investing in all those businesses that are able to kind of create revenue or exit, that's been the best investment.
Hmm. Yep. And then as far, we're going to do kind of a finish this sentence, so I'll give you a second to think about it if needed. But in the next decade, the biggest sports investment opportunity will be fill in
Oh,
the blank.
NWSL, easy. And I'll tell you why. Um, Huge influx. World Cup's coming up, right?
Mm.
If you look at attendance, viewership of even our national teams, men and women's right up there,
Hmm.
right? And there's still currently, when I look through it, about a quarter of the valuation as a men's team.
Hmm.
So over the next decade, I think female soccer is going to be gigantic.
Hmm. Awesome. Well, we'll keep tabs on that. It's a great way to kind of close the episode. But Tom, we appreciate you coming on today, talking about the Players Company, talking about the journey, and we'll give you kind of the floor here on, maybe what's next for the Players Company, where people can find you, the company, and obviously if athletes are trying to get involved, where they can go.
Absolutely. And Connor, thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure. You can follow us on IG, on LinkedIn, on Facebook for the older millennials like myself. It's just the Players Company. Or you can find myself on all those platforms as well. If there's anything you need, any help, feel free to message. We have a great team and we're always ready to help.
Appreciate it. Awesome, Tom. Thanks again, and thanks for the listeners and viewers. And this has been another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.